my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today we're going to make this beautiful, thick, bulky, chunky, soft blanket. It's super easy to make. It's a great project to take along with you. And the stitch here sort of looks like the basket weave, but I call it the altered basket weave. And I'm doing that because I like the way that it lays a lot flatter with this super bulky number 6 yarn. And what this yarn is I went to Michael's and I picked up some of these Caron Yarnspiration Anniversary cakes. Now this one is gorgeous. Isn't that pretty? This one is called Sour Cherry. This one here I picked out specifically to make my husband a blanket. And this one is called Bookclub. And I liked all the colors. It's a little bit different than, say, a rainbow. They're not muted. They're just different. Kind of a, sort of a, what do you call that? A dusty color. It's not the bright red, but it's a dusty red. Not a bright blue, but a dusty blue. And it has a lot of these really pretty colors. And as you saw, it looks really pretty on his recliner. I'm just calling it the anniversary blanket, but it is a really big, thick, and chunky blanket. If you make it according to the pattern that I have written, you'll get something that measures about 45.5 inches wide by 66 inches long. And of course, I have the multiples on the pattern. You can get that by clicking that link that's provided in the description box underneath this video, and it will have all the measurements and the multiples that you need to make it any size that you want to. It's a nice thick blanket. It's perfect for throwing on the bed, for throwing on the recliner, back of the couch, or maybe just making what we call a car blanket. I like to keep a couple blankets in the car just in case, even a day at the beach, you get a little sunburnt. Sometimes you want something to throw over your shoulders. And so it's kind of nice to have a blanket in the car. I keep a couple. I have 3 grandkids, so I usually keep 3 in there. And so I think you're really going to enjoy making this. Now, you can find the complete pattern with pictures on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. If you've purchased one of these Yarnspiration Caron anniversary cakes, you can make this blanket with just one of these cakes. And one of these cakes has 35.3 ounces or 1,061 yards. Okay, but you don't have to use this particular yarn. You can use any super bulky number 6 yarn that you have. And if you have a bunch of bulky yarns that are all number 6, you can put them together and make yourself a scrap happy anniversary blanket. You don't have to use that particular yarn. I just really fell in love with these colors for my husband's blanket. And it worked out really great because we just had our anniversary. He needs a new blanket for his recliner. Works out great. Now we're going to stitch today with an N, which is a 9mm. Now remember, some ends are a 10mm, and so make sure that you use a 9mm crochet hook. If you go with a 10mm, it's going to be a little bit too loose. And we want it to be warm, so we want our stitches to be close. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends, and make sure it has a nice big eye on it for weaving in the ends. And if you just use an anniversary cake, you just have to weave in the beginning and the end tails. All right, let me slide that in there so I don't lose where I put it. And then, of course, you're going to need a pair of scissors. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin by stitching a foundation double crochet row at the bottom of our blanket. And I like to do this when I'm doing a blanket. I think it makes it a lot easier to count your stitches, okay? So, we'll make our slip knot. We'll chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in that 4th chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, just go through that first loop. We've made our chain. Now we're going to finish our double crochet. So yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. All right, so now we're going to yarn over. We'll go in that chain stitch that we made, pull up a loop, yarn over, just go through that first loop, yarn over, and finish our double crochet. All right, and this is how our row 1 will work. We're going to stitch 78 foundation double crochets. Now, I am not going to be stitching 78. I'm going to do a swatch of 30 just to show you how the pattern works. But you can increase that if you want to, or you can do less. All right, it's up to you and the size blanket that you want to make. Now, if you're making the size blanket that I made on the pattern, you need to make 78 foundation double crochets. And I'm doing 30 foundation double crochets. And I want to show you as we went across, see how it makes the stitches? You're making your chain and you're making your double crochet at the same time. And this makes it really easy to count your stitches. Something else that can help you is to grab your stitch markers. Mine are stuck. Here we go. I set them underneath my microphone stand for some weird reason. All right, so what you can do with your stitch markers is every 10 or 20 stitches, just pop in a stitch marker. And then you'll have it marked and you won't have to recount all those stitches. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. 9. All right, so this makes 10. And then I can just take my stitch marker, stick it right in that 10th stitch and keep going. And then I don't have to keep recounting. All right, so to make the pattern according to what I have written, which will give you 45.5 by 66 inches, you need to make 78 foundation double crochets. For my swatch, I'm only doing 30. I have finished my row of 30 because remember I'm doing a swatch. You need to have 78 foundation double crochets. And I marked mine every 10 stitches with a stitch marker. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. Stitch markers are your friends in crochet, believe it or not. All right, so now we're going to chain 3. And our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Oh, and I want to remind you that at the beginning here where we skipped these 3 and then did our foundation double crochet in the 4th, those 3 chains do count as your first double crochet. Just FYI. All right, so we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work and we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. Because our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll double crochet in the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that gives us 6 double crochets because our chain 3 counted as our first. And then I stitched 5 more. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch a front post double crochet in the next 5 stitches. All right, so we'll go around the post. We usually stitch up here in the top, but we're going around the post to stitch our next 6 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I did find this yarn because it's so fuzzy and fluffy just a little bit splitty, but it's okay. It's worth it. So now we have 6 double crochets and 6 front post double crochets. So now we're just going to alternate that. So now we're stitching 6 regular double crochets. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 regular double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to do 6 front posts again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, and so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat across 6 double crochets, 6 front post, 6 double crochets, 6 front post until you get to the end. And then you want to make sure that you end with 6 regular, oops, there we go, double crochets. And the only reason you would have to worry about that is if you have added width to your blanket or subtracted. And chain 3. So your stitch count is going to be the same. You're going to have 78 stitches. You're just going to have it alternated from double crochets, 6 front post, 6 double crochets, 6 front post, 6 double crochets, all the way across, alternating the front post and the regular double crochets. So now we're ready for row 3. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work again. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to double crochet in those next 5. And that gives us, again, 6 double crochets because our chain 3 counted as our first. All right, so now what we're going to do, because we're on the back side of our work, we're going to be stitching 1 back post double crochet in each of those next stitches. All right. So we're stitching 1 back post double crochet in each of those front post double crochets. Three. There we go. 4. 5 and 6. All right, now this is the back side of our work, and you'll see those ridges there where you don't see them in between. All right, well, let's look at the front of our work. We've stitched them in the front post from the previous row, so we have them all standing up tall. Okay? All right, so the next 6 will be a regular double crochet. So this is similar to the basket weave, but not exactly. That's why I call it the altered basket weave. It makes the blanket lay a little bit flatter without being real thick and bumpy, because this is a thick yarn. And you can do it that way if you want to. I just really liked it more flattened out because it is a really thick yarn. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular double crochets. And so we're just going to alternate 6 regular and 6 back post all the way across our row. And make sure your back post double crochets are stitched in the front posts from the previous row. And again, you're alternating 6 and 6. 6 regular double crochets and 6 back post double crochets. And this is how the back will look. When you look on the front, you can see those sections that are standing up. Isn't it pretty? So we're going to repeat this all the way across our row. And then those last 6 regular double crochets. There we go. This last one's in that chain. I want to make sure we get in there. The thing about the 9mm is the point of the crochet hook is not very sharp. And so sometimes in those tighter stitches, it does make it a little bit harder to get in there. All right, let's chain 3. And again, this is the back. So we'll turn our work, and this is the front. And you can see those sections that are standing up. That's why this makes such a warm blanket. We have now completed row 3. And now what we're going to do for the next 2 rows is basically repeat row 2 and row 3. All right, so we've chained 3, which is our first double crochet, and we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then again, we're going to stitch 1 front post in each of the next 6 stitches. 6 stitches. Sorry about the scratchy throat and stuffy head. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, but it's not going to keep me from crocheting. That is for sure. All righty. All right, see, we're just repeating the same thing. 6 double crochets, 6 front posts. And we'll do this all the way across for row 4. Ooh, I like this gold color here. Isn't that pretty coming in? Gives it just a little pop of brightness. All right, so for row 4, we're again alternating 6 double crochet, 6 front post, 6 double crochet, 6 front post, all the way across our row. So I've completed that 4th row, alternating our double crochets and our front posts across. Chain 3, turn your work, and then for row 5, we're going to repeat what we did on row 3, which is 1 double crochet in the next 5 because our chain 3 counts as our first. There we go. Alrighty. So I have 6 double crochets, and then we're going to stitch a back post in those front post stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And again, you'll see that ridge on the back, and on the front it'll look just like a front post stitch. Alrighty, and so we'll just repeat this, alternating across. 1 double crochet in the next 6, one back post double crochet in the next, 1 double crochet in each of the 6, back post double crochet in the next 6, alternating all the way across. Six regular, 6 back post, 6 regular, 6 back post, and repeat all the way across our row, just like we did down here. So we have now completed up through row 5. We have our foundation row of double crochets, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, which makes a total of 5, where we alternated regular double crochets and front post, and when we're on the back side, back post, double crochets. And if you've ever stitched a basic basket weave, you'll notice that it bunches up quite a bit more. But we were wanting this to lay just a little bit flatter and still have the effect of the basket weave look, just because it's super pretty and it makes a really warm blanket. So now what we're going to do for row 6 is we're going to alternate what we were just doing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and chain 3, and now we're going to front post in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to have a regular double crochet here, and because it doesn't work to try to front post around that first one, and so we're just going to front post those next 5. All right, and that brings us to those 6 front post stitches, and we're just going to stitch a double crochet in each one of those. So we'll stitch it right up in the top there where we normally stitch a double crochet, and we'll stitch 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a knot there, but I'm just going to leave it since this is a swatch, because I'll pull this out to put on the end of my blanket. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we stitched 1 double crochet in the top of where we've been stitching our post stitches. Okay, so that brings us to our next 6 stitches, and we're going to stitch a front post around each of those double crochet front posts. I should say the front post of each of those double crochets. And so what we're doing is we're doing the opposite of what we have been doing. And this will give us that basket weave effect without it being too bumpy. Don't misunderstand me. I love the basket weave stitch. I'm just not a big fan of it for blankets, especially a big chunky blanket like this one. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 front posts. And so now we'll just continue to alternate 1 double crochet in each of the front posts from the previous row, and front post double crochet in each of the regular double crochets. And we'll do this all, whoops, piece of string in there, don't want that. Alrighty. Whoops, how many have I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what's going to happen on the end is you're going to end up with your 6 regular double crochets, and so then you're just going to do like we did over here and stitch those last 6 front post double crochets. Okay? And of course, you're going to have a much longer row than I am because I'm only working off of a swatch. And using a swatch sometimes is a good idea if you're just learning a stitch, just so you can figure out how to do it. And it keeps you from having to do a lot of frogging. All right, I'm going to chain 3. Oops. There we go. All right, and see how that looks? And then we're going to start seeing these portions where we stitched the front post on this row stick out the way these do on this row. So now we're ready for row 7. So we've chained 3, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to begin with back post double crochets. Now again, this chain 3, we're not going to do the back post. We're just going to leave it as a double crochet, and then we'll stitch 1 back post double crochet in those next 5. Three, 4, and 5. So we still have 6 stitches there in that group. It's just the first one is a regular double crochet, and then the next 5 are back post. And if you turn it over, it looks like a front post on the front. Okay? All right, so that brings us to our next group, which is 6 regular double crochets. Alrighty, there's my 6th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that brings us to another group of 6 back post. And so we're alternating 6 regular double crochets and 6 back post double crochets because we're stitching a back post in the front post stitch. There we go. Almost had another knot there, but it was just a little bit of a tangle. Alrighty, so just like we did before, you're just going to continue across, stitching 1 front post double crochet in these first 5, and then you'll stitch 6 double crochets, then 6 back post, 6 double crochets, alternating all the way across your blanket. And you should end up with 6 back posts at the end. Although it does depend on if you've added more or subtracted chains, depending on the size blanket that you want to make. Okay, so now I'm just ending with my 6 back post double crochets. There we go. There we go. And then the last one goes in that chain 3. There we go. And chain 3. So this is how it looks on the back. And when we turn it over, you can really start to see that those sections that are jumping out. I'm going to push them up just so you can see them a little more. Just super pretty. I just really love it. But that's the way that it should look after row 7. So now we have completed row 7, and we did our back posts and regular double crochets alternating across. And so what you're going to do is you're going to repeat row 6 and row 7 one more time so that we have that nice big block like we do down here in those sections. And again, I'm working off a swatch, so you're going to have a whole lot more groups, okay? But you'll do this exactly the same. You'll do front post, regular double crochets, front posts all the way across. You'll turn your work and then do back post, double crochets, back post on the back side for row 9. So you're going to repeat row 6 and row 7 one more time. So I have completed those 2 rows. That brings me up to row 9, okay? And so we have these nice big blocks that make it super pretty. I have a really super texture. I'll hold that up so you can kind of see that texture. So cool. All right, so now what you're going to do, now that you understand how to do all of it, you're going to repeat row 2 through row 9 for 65 more rows. You're going to alternate every 4 rows, and it's going to look gorgeous. And it's a really simple, fun blanket. And once you've figured out these 8 rows, you can take it with you. You don't have to look at your pattern sheet anymore. You don't have to watch the video anymore. You can just crochet away. That's why I say it's a perfect project to take with you. Sometimes we take a lot of little projects. This is a nice big project. You may have to carry a big skein of yarn, but by the time you're done, that big ball of yarn is going to be a blanket. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 2 through row 9 for 65 more rows, alternating every 4 rows where you place your front post blocks. And it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that beautiful? This is how your blanket will look after you've completed all your rows. And the only thing you have to do at the end is just add 1 solid row of double crochet all the way across. I did not put a trim on the edges on mine. See how they look? I did not. Now you can. I just didn't think it was necessary. It lays really pretty. And the only thing I did was add this row of double crochet on this last row after I finished all my repeats. And that would be row 66, a solid row of double crochet all the way across. And then your blanket is finished. Now, of course, if you want to trim, maybe you would feel better putting a row of double crochet around the whole thing, or maybe a row of half double crochets, or even single crochets. I just didn't see that it was necessary. And I absolutely love this blanket. It's warm, it's squishy, and these colors on this one are really pretty. Okay, now I want to talk to you real quick about some yarn substitutions. If you don't have the money, or you don't have one of those big anniversary cakes, can you still make this blanket? And you absolutely can. Like I said towards the beginning of the video, you can use any super bulky number 6. Blanket yarns would be beautiful in this. And also any of your big velvet yarns that are bulky 6. Or you could just get in your yarn stash, as I said earlier, and grab all your super bulky yarns, whether they're variegated, striped, ombre, or solids, and make a big scrap happy blanket. Because any super bulky 6 will work for this pattern. All right? So I want you to have fun with it, and I want everyone to be able to make one. So don't feel like if you don't have the big anniversary cake, you can't make it. You can. Another thing you can do, this is a super bulky, so you might want to put 3 strands of a medium weight 4 together, and that would be another way you could make a nice thick chunky blanket and get rid of a bunch of your yarn scraps. Okay? Alrighty, so this is our anniversary blanket that I'm going to give to my husband. Even though our anniversary's already passed, It's his anniversary gift. He knew he was going to get it. He picked out the colors.